Before we start, just a quick reminder. The views and content shared on this podcast are for entertainment purposes only and are not a substitute for professional advice. Please check the full disclaimer in the show notes for more information.
Welcome to Self-Centered, the podcast that's all about you. We're your hosts.
I'm Allie, a therapist and life coach.
And I'm Katie, a fitness coach and personal trainer. We know what it's like to feel burnt out, taken for granted, and like your life revolves around everyone but yourself.
By learning to trust yourself, prioritize your needs, and set healthy boundaries, we help you break free from guilt, overfunctioning, and toxic patterns that keep you stuck in relationships and a life that doesn't truly serve you.
Join us each week as we dive into the tools, stories, and mindset shifts you need to create a life that centers you.
Because being self-centered isn't selfish, it's essential.
We have low energy things today, which is good.
So for everyone, just some context, we've been doing a lot of teaching, y'all, which is important. I think the things that we've talked about have been important to teach, and it's nice to not prep to teach.
Yeah.
And to just get to hang out with y'all. So that's what we're going to do today. We do have some prompts, and yeah, I think it's going to be good. I feel really laid back, which is nice. I have been stressed, and I think it's partially because of, not having to prep for today, but then also because I'm moving and it's going to be so nice, and I'm going to have my own kitchen, and I'm going to be close again to my friends, and I'll get to have the dog in daycare, and I'll be able to meet with more clients. So if anyone's interested in therapy and you live in Vermont or California, or life coaching and you live anywhere, hit me up.
Yep.
I'll be taking new clients. By the time you hear this, I'll be taking new clients because I'll have been moved by then.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm just so relieved.
It's going to be so good.
Yeah, I didn't realize how stressed I've been and how much it's been impacting me. Your eyes just got big. So you knew how stressed I was. See, this is what I mean. I'm not on the outside of me. I'm inside of me. So it's hard for me. But I realized last night, I was like, oh my gosh, this has been really hard and really impacting, limiting my capacity.
Yeah.
Even just thinking is hard sometimes right now.
Yeah.
So today we are going to talk about the 5 most common regrets for people at the end of their lives. The reason we're talking about it is because we can know about this before it's the end of our lives.
Yeah.
And we can maybe get ahead of these regrets so that we don't have these regrets.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea for this is from this woman, Bronnie Ware. She is a nurse in palliative care, which I think probably means people who are dying, like hospice, I'm assuming.
I'm sure Google would tell us.
Yeah. It's someone who works with dying patients is really all we need to know. So she wrote this book based on her experience of the regrets that she heard the most. So we are just going to have to go ahead and trust her, because
Yeah.
there are actual studies that have been done on this. Okay. You want to go through them?
Oh, yeah, I did find it. It is The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying is the name of the book by Bronnie Ware, W-A-R-E.
Katie's like, listen, we don't have to be perfect, but there are some standards, and that does not allow us to talk about a book without saying the name of the book, and I respect that.
Yeah, we should probably cite our source.
I'm so extreme. I'm either like so prepared, giving you the most comprehensive overview of boundaries, or I'm like, oh yeah, I heard this thing, Google it. Oh my gosh. Okay. You want to just go through them and then we can.
Yeah.
Number 1 is I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life that others expected of me.
Dun, dun, dun.
It says most people had not honored even half of their dreams and had to die knowing that it was due to choices they had made or not made. It's very important to try and honor at least some of your dreams along the way.
That it's so when I went back and read these, that was the one that speaks so strongly to being self-centered. It's like, okay, well, you're either true to yourself or you're not. I mean, that's self-centered, right? It reminded me of when I was in college and I had a couple crazy professors. I went to a liberal arts school for context. So most of our education around our degree was theoretical and
Mm-hmm.
conversational as opposed to like very concrete structured information. So my degree is actually in business management and finance. So when it comes to business management, it wasn't like I was taking dozens of accounting courses and finance courses and strategic business courses. I was taking a lot of like leadership and creative thinking, and it was mostly personal growth, honestly. And a lot of like our texts for the class were personal growth based books. But I had this one professor who he drilled it into our head that the only person that you can control is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you make choices based off of other people's opinions and beliefs of you, your life isn't your own. And he would always say stuff like, the real world is in between your ears. Like, instead of us trying to make choices that were based off of other people's experiences and what we perceived things were happening, you have to make choices off of based what's happening within you. And your perception is reality, right? But it reminded me of that it's like, okay, if I'm making choices off of other people, I'm not actually living my own life.
Mm-hmm.
And you end up believing it, losing all of your power. It just brought me back to that thinking of, oh yeah, that was absolutely that belief of what you can control is you. That's it. You can't control anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So your choices should be for you, not for other people. In my perspective, my power is based in my choice. Like the power that I have as a person comes down to what I choose to do and what I choose not to do.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like when we talked about boundaries and providing access or providing no access. It's like you can create a boundary by simply just not allowing people to continue to interact with you. And that is your power, right? And so if I am living for other people's opinions or what other people expect of me, I'm putting the power in their hands because I'm basing it off of their perception. So if they expect me to be perfect, or they expect me not to have emotions, or they expect me to overwork myself, then now I have to abide by their standards if I'm choosing to base my choices off of their expectations.
Yes.
Which puts all the power in their hands, because then they can just say, oh, well, now instead of, expecting you to work 12 hours a day, I'm expecting you to work 14 hours a day. And because I require their approval in my mind, because I require their approval in order to feel good about myself. Okay, well, now I have to do what they say, even if it doesn't align with what I'd want for myself. Right.
Yeah.
So the inverse is true, is it's like, okay, well, if I want to take my power back, I have to go based off of what's important to me. And I have to make sure that my choices and my actions align with that. And I was even thinking, these are like car thoughts. I was thinking about this as I was driving. I was like, if I looked at my day or my week and I put every hourly action that I made, I schedule all clients on hourly appointments. So I think of my day in terms of like the 7 o'clock hour, the 8 o'clock hour, the 9 o'clock hour, right? Whether I'm working or not. So if I looked at all of those decisions on the hourly mark and I went through and I said, is this a choice for me, or is this a choice for someone else? Is this a choice for me? Is this a choice for someone else? And I assess that, would I see the vast majority of a choice for me, or would I see the vast majority of a choice for myself?
Ooh, that's a good exercise.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, okay, I can see now in my life, I've certainly leaned more into the things that are a choice for me, which is great, in ways that it's shown itself as even like, what things would I be willing to do without anyone ever seeing it, without anyone ever hearing about it, without ever sharing it on social media? But what things are important to me that I do if no one joins me? The one that like
no one would get angry at you for your choice if it wouldn't negatively impact anyone.
Yeah. And it's not even like, when I was thinking about that initially, that particular thing, I wasn't even thinking about consequential choices. I was even thinking just simply about hobbies. Because I remember a time in my life where the things that I did, the hobbies that I partook in, were not things that I was actually interested in. They were just the things that were interesting to the people that I felt accepted by. And so I would align all of my hobbies with those people, even though I didn't particularly enjoy them. And then now I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Even if no one went with me, if I never posted about it, if I never told anyone about it, if I never talked about it, I would still go hiking by myself. Or like, would you be willing to sit in a movie theater and watch, XYZ movie that you were interested in all alone? Or like the thought of being able to go to dinner alone, which of course requires you to be comfortable sitting with yourself. But there is some level of, oh, what will people think of me for going and doing this thing by myself? That's an expectation that others have of you.
Right.
And
Yep.
so, like, how comfortable are we in engaging in those activities if no one saw, if no one knew, if there was no highlight reel, and
Mm.
if it, if you had to do it by yourself?
Mm, yeah, it makes me think of identity, and it's an ego-based identity because ego is the conditioned self, and we're conditioned by what are other people's opinions of me, or what are their expectations of me, or what do they want from me. There's a
Yeah.
psychological concept called conditions of worth, where your worth, whether you're lovable or capable, or how lovable or how capable you are seen to be or believe yourself to be, is dependent on these conditions. That's the belief, right? It's not
Hmm.
actually true. And so, yeah, our society values or prioritizes certain things like productivity or being thin, or, and there's different subcultures. If you go to Miami, you're going to see people with more curves than if you go to LA,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that's because of these conditions of worth.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, if your power is in what you can control and influence, aka your choices, and your choices are based on these conditions of what makes me lovable or capable, then yeah, you're giving away your power, and you're not happy because you're not doing those hobbies or those things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, if that's how you live your life for the rest of your life, you're going to regret that.
Yeah. That would feel real rough.
I just remember I was making a collage one time, or maybe a vision board or whatever. And this was this was after I had graduated from grad school, so my mid to late 20s, sometime around then. And I found this thing in a magazine, and what did it say? It said, "Do you want to live a good enough life or a great life?"
Oh, wow.
And that encapsulated the way that I've kind of always thought about how I live my life, which is I don't want a good enough life, because this is why midlife crises happen. And
Yeah.
I think I have this unique position because I get to hear about everyone's midlife crisis. And what is a midlife crisis, or quarter life crisis, or third life crisis, right? It's basically I'm living a life that isn't mine. And so I have a meltdown. And sometimes that's easier to deal with than other circumstances. It depends on the circumstance you're in. Are the choices that you made that weren't the choices that you really wanted to make, and it was more influenced by other people? How much is that kind of like trapping you now? Is really
Hmm.
kind of what makes that easier or harder. And so, the people who are really struggling the most, I mean, think about a stay-at-home mom who's in a marriage that she doesn't want to be in and was really passionate about her career. There are things that she wants to do with her life, or maybe she wants to do traveling or whatever, and her husband doesn't support that. And it's like, oh my gosh, I have to figure out how I'm going to leave. Okay, how am I going to financially do that? Okay, how am I going to take care of the kids, all that kind of stuff. And so, wherever you are, whether you're in that situation or you're in an easier situation, it's never too late to make a commitment to yourself that you're going to live for yourself, because it is worth it. It's worth it to
Yes.
figure it out and get out of that. And you can give yourself as much time as you need. It doesn't have to happen immediately, but the commitment does need to happen, you know?
Yeah. I think we pause there and we say that again because that is so important that
Oh, I love
wherever
how I
you
said
are, it is never too late to make a commitment to yourself and to stop living for other people and to start living for yourself.
it. Yeah. You can always come back home to yourself.
Yeah.
It might take a plan, and implementing that plan. It may take some
Hmm.
time, but yeah. And also, you want to experience yourself living according to yourself. If you aren't doing that, then you don't really know who you are yet. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like you figure out who you are and then you live the life that you want. It's influencing each other. It's like, okay, well, I know I want this, so I'm going to follow that breadcrumb. And then I get to experience myself living the life after following that breadcrumb, and I learn more about myself. Like, the way that I have felt about myself, and I feel good about myself, but I feel better about myself than I have felt over the last few months now that I'm relieved because I'm like, oh, I have so much more capacity. Oh my God, that's amazing. And I didn't know that before because I didn't have capacity before. And yeah, I can think back to times when I had more capacity and maybe it's because I'm stressed, da, 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 da. But you don't know. Get older, like, maybe this is just a natural thing. So it's really important too to realize that who you are right now, to the extent that the choices that you're making aren't based on you, is not who you really fully are until you are making choices based on you.
Yeah.
This is related to the conditions of worth. So, all core beliefs, we can simplify or reduce them down to these two core beliefs: I'm lovable and I'm capable, or I'm not lovable or I'm not capable. Then there's these conditions of worth, depending on, I mean, conditions of worth exist wherever you live on this earth. And the specific conditions of worth will be different depending on what the culture or community or family that you live in values and believes. And so, based on those conditions of worth, you might implicitly, meaning that you don't consciously think this, it's very subconscious, but you come up with these rules for yourself of like, well, in order to be lovable, I need to be or do XYZ. Those are those conditions of worth. In order to be seen as capable, AKA for me to see myself as capable, because we internalize these beliefs, I need to be or do XYZ conditions of worth. And so those rules are subconsciously just in the background and they're really guiding our choices and our behavior. And then we might have thoughts. Thoughts come out of these rules or these assumptions that we make because if my belief, for example, is I'm not lovable, and the rule is in order to be seen as lovable, then I need to make sure that everyone is always happy and no one can be angry at me. Then once I break that rule accidentally, or I don't break that rule because it's guiding my decisions. And so I never set boundaries. I take responsibility for other people's feelings. But let's say that accidentally I make someone angry or someone's angry for no effing reason, right? I'm like, oh, I couldn't make them feel better. Then that's when you're getting these thoughts in your everyday life that are like, oh no, are they mad at me? Like lots of different thoughts can come out of that. And so it's really important that we figure out what are these conditions of worth? What have I learned I need to do or be in order to be lovable, in order to be accepted, in order to have belonging? What do I need to do or be in order to be seen as capable? Maybe it's not just coming from outside of you, it could be coming from within you too.
Yeah. When I think about myself and people that I've talked to who have decisions or actions or thoughts that are not helpful
Mm-hmm.
to them, like when you were mentioning that, okay, well, people can't be upset around me, because I've had that thought before but that was so ingrained for so long that was the thought is, okay, well, it's not good for people to be angry. It's not good for people to be upset.
Yeah.
And I have to make sure that they're not upset.
Sure. Yeah, it can be a thought, right? I'm not lovable. Even a core belief could be a thought too.
Okay.
Rules
Yeah.
could be a thought. It's just the point is just that our thoughts aren't necessarily the root.
Got it. Got it. Yeah.
So it goes deeper. Any thought that we have about ourselves and
Maybe our behaviors and choices.
yeah, is going to have a rule or an assumption, and then there's going to be a core belief. And it might start at the core belief. If your thought is, wow, no one loves me, I must not be lovable, then
Yeah.
thought is the core belief. But if it's more of a surface level thought further away from that, then it can be helpful. What's the rule here? What's the assumption? Which those are on the same plane, rules and
Got
assumptions.
it.
And then what's the core belief? And also, we are wired to choose belonging over authenticity.
Yeah.
Because from an evolutionary perspective, we need to stay in the tribe. It really is life or death to be kicked out of the tribe. And so we need belonging. And so often we will automatically choose not being ourselves and being inauthentic in order to belong, in order to
Yeah.
in order to be approved of. And that's wired in from a different time. Now it's not that as much about survival. I really think we definitely all need people, but you can find your people. You can find your people that you are authentically you with. I always say we all need people, but none of us need one specific person.
Yeah.
There
That's
isn't a
an
specific person that we need to make like us.
I remember feeling that way growing up in a suburban area because you have a small
Mm,
collection of people that are near you. And
yeah.
so it's almost like having a scarcity mindset around people. And
Mm,
then, like, I kind of had a realization when I was in my late 20s that, like, oh no, there's what is it? 7 billion, 8 billion people on this planet now.
yeah.
Like, there are so many people that think similarly or believe similarly to you.
Mhm.
Um, if the people within your circle now do not, that's okay.
Yeah. We have the
You
internet
don't,
now.
yeah, you have the internet. And also, you're not a tree. You can get up and move. You're not
Yeah.
stuck in one spot. You can branch out and go
Yeah.
somewhere else and go where you resonate with the people
Hmm.
and feel seen and heard and understood.
Hmm. Yeah. And being seen clearly is going to support us to get our power back because if our power is in what we can control and influence, aka our choices, then we can make these choices that take care of us. And that's why abusive people and cults try to isolate you.
Yes.
They don't want you to have a clear mirror in other people. They don't want you to see yourself clearly. They don't want you to trust yourself. And so it's just like, yeah, we got to isolate you. We're going to cut you off. And, you just think about kids growing up in these very rural areas where they don't have access to hearing other points of view. That's why representation is so important in movies and in media in general, so that you can see yourself in other people.
Yeah.
Psychological need. But we see you selfies. Oh, yeah, wait.
Right. We're going to ask that question later. That'll bring up a question we'll ask later, friends.
I'm gonna write it down so I remember. Anything else related to that? I think
Nope.
that's probably the biggest one.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, number two. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Of conditions of worth, being productive and being seen as successful and making a lot of money is something that's very valued and prioritized and will make someone seem lovable or capable, according
Mhm.
to certain perspectives. And also, obviously, we have to work hard. Unless you're just rich and lucky and have a trust fund or whatever, unless you're in a good situation, you do have to work to some extent in order to survive. So it's not all just these psychological things. But yeah, I think sometimes we don't strategize how to get off the treadmill or the maybe not treadmill, but the what's it?
Hamster wheel.
Hamster wheel. Thank you. Yeah, the hamster wheel of just constant work and burnout. It's very easy. We have to
Yeah.
be very intentional because I think there's unfortunately a lot of jobs that will exploit you. So you have to
Yes.
be really, really careful and intentional. But yeah, I mean, working so hard all the time is going to make you not feel the best.
That is such an American capitalism
Mm-hmm.
mindset. I
Mm-hmm.
remember having worked in corporate environments and corporate business environments, it was so praised and touted if you worked well off the clock
Mm-hmm.
and gave up. It was self-sacrificial. Oh, look at you go, you're getting rid of your weekend to make sure that deadlines are met. It's like,
Yeah.
fuck the deadline. No, like, the deadline needs to be adjusted. If we're constantly giving away ourselves in order to make these deadlines, the deadlines probably aren't realistic, and we're also not helping ourselves by doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
But
a lot of places don't want to pay for more employees, so they just
mm,
put an inordinate amount of work on less employees. Yeah.
yeah, but that ties you back to, okay, well, if you're working your life away,
Mm-hmm.
you're living for other people and their
Mm-hmm.
expectations, whether that's your employer or the people that you serve, or the kind of collective mindset again of capitalism that we have to be successful and make a bunch of money and
Productive and
you
always
know
making more and more and more, not just money, but more and more productive.
yeah. I have to check myself sometimes of the mindset that like, oh yeah, you worked XYZ number of hours this week. That was more than last week. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I need to come back and not, that's not something to be excited about.
Yeah, well, if you love improvement and growth, it's easy to accidentally get into that mindset. Because I had the same thought when I first started my business. I was making significantly more and more money over time because, I mean, relative to what I started at, which was $1,000 a month, right? Um,
Yep.
and by significantly more, I mean like hundreds more, you know. Um, but it kept increasing until September was my highest month. And then since then, it's just kind of fluctuates and within this kind of, I don't know, same amount of money ish. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm watching it go up. Oh yeah. And then I was like, September, oh gosh, I made this much. What am I going to make in October? And then in October, I made, I think like $200 to $400 less than I had in September. And I was like, oh no. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like it's fine, Allie. Like as long as you can pay your bills, it's fine. And I do actually have goals to make more, but there are some chess pieces in the way. Once I move and I'm closer to daycare, then my dog can be at daycare more often, and then I can take on more clients. And so I will make that. But it's just you don't need to work hard just for the sake of working hard. Of course, like if you need to work for survival, that makes sense, but do whatever you can to be strategic in your long game that you're not doing that forever.
Yes. Yeah. And this is a shameless business plug, but find ways to duplicate yourself
Mm-hmm.
that don't require you to be hands on for everything because you will hit a ceiling and your ceiling might not match the lifestyle that you want or that you are required to provide
Mm-hmm.
for maybe your family, your kids, whatever you have signed up for so far in life. It's like, okay, well, if you work 60 hours a week in a minimum wage job,
Mm-hmm.
well, that might not provide for a family of six,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you find the balance of, okay, well, how can you duplicate yourself without putting so much time and energy? It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on.
Yep.
I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Many people suppress their feelings in order to keep peace with others. As a result, they settled for a mediocre existence and never became who they were truly capable of becoming. Many developed illnesses related to the bitterness and resentment they carried as a result.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. What was that? Oh, the holistic psychologist posted about this recently, and I don't remember the exact statistics or what it was from. I need to go look it up. But essentially, that predominantly women,
Hmm.
it happens too, but autoimmune
Hmm.
diseases are
Hmm.
connected in many ways to like emotional suppression
Hmm.
or people
Hmm.
that have,
Not
like
expressing.
parentified daughters or that sort of
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
And yeah, they end up getting like physically sick.
Yeah. So there's a book called The Myth of Normal by Gabor Maté, and he's a doctor or not.
Yes, I remember you talking about him. He's very interesting.
Yeah, and I read the book and there was an actual study where they looked at people, I'm pretty sure it was with chronic illness, like an autoimmune thing or just different types of illnesses, but they were chronic illnesses.
Hmm.
And they looked at who were the people who were most likely to have these chronic illnesses and what were the traits, like personality traits or other characteristics of people who didn't have those chronic illnesses. And it was the people who had the chronic illnesses or more likely to. They were women who were pleasant and agreeable. They took responsibility for the emotions of others. And they basically, like you said, emotionally suppressed and suppressed expression of their feelings or their needs. They didn't set boundaries. They didn't express their anger or frustration. They just kept everything inside and internalized everything, right? So like you can internalize your stress, which is you're in your head worrying, thinking, taking responsibility for the situation. You're taking the hits in order to keep the peace. Whereas externalizing is I'm getting angry and taking it out on other people. And so when you internalize and you don't express and therefore suppress, then that does create illness. It creates chronic illness. And so be a bitch. You know what I just realized? I have my Kindle app on my phone. I can just find the book because I read it.
Oh, the Gabor Maté. What is that? How do you say
I
his name?
think that's how you say it. Gabor Maté.
Maté.
Maté. Maté. Maté. Cut that out. It's like a vocal tick. Not really, but it's just so fun, isn't it? It's vocal stimming, is what that is.
That's like my do do do.
Da-da-da-da-da. I feel like Mario is such a vocal stim, or
Yeah.
maybe an audio stim. It's stimming for sure. I'm really having trouble. Oh, okay, I found it. Rethinking abnormal afflictions as adaptations. I mean, that's one of my beefs with the therapy field or the mainstream therapy field, which is very much influenced by insurance. So this is not for your private practice therapists who can do more of what they want and get paid out of pocket so they don't have to follow insurance stuff. But our model of mental illness is that there's something wrong with people, but really it's an adaptation. It's an adaptation to stress and trauma. And there's actual studies on that. So that's why it's so frustrating because the criteria for a lot of mental health diagnoses is like, and it has to be abnormal. So it's like, oh, this person, let's say social anxiety, which is, it's called social phobia, according to the DSM. So for that diagnosis, obviously you have to have anxiety in the context of interpersonal interactions. And that anxiety has to be abnormal for the situation. So there's diagnoses called adjustment disorder. So there's adjustment disorder with depressed mood, adjustment disorder with anxiety. There's adjustment disorder with mixed anxiety and depressed mood. It's like the lowest level diagnosis that you could give because it's basically like, oh, this person's having trouble adjusting to some stressful thing that happened in their life and it's causing these symptoms of anxiety and or depression. But one of the criteria for adjustment disorder is like, okay, yeah, they went through this really hard thing and they're having trouble adjusting to it. And it's weird that they're having trouble adjusting to it. Like it's abnormal. So literally you cannot be diagnosed with adjustment disorder if it's like, oh, I just went through this awful breakup with this person who was awful to me and it was super stressful and I would really love to go to therapy to get help with that, but I don't have generalized anxiety disorder. Like I don't meet criteria for it. I don't meet criteria for major depressive disorder. That's what depression is diagnosed as. And you can be mild, moderate, or severe. Anyway, there's a lot more specifiers with that. But for adjustment disorder, if you don't meet criteria for those other diagnoses, then therapists have to look at adjustment disorder. And we have to basically be like, yeah, it's abnormal that this person who went through this shitty breakup is so anxious and so depressed, even though this person was like fucking awful to my client.
So basically, you
So it's
have
like,
to invalidate someone's feelings and be
yes,
like, yeah, you're crazy in order
yes.
to.
Yes. And really, to have a clinical license to practice as a therapist, you have to diagnose and treat diagnoses. Like that's so it's like you do have to have a DSM diagnosis in your notes. So you have to follow this model that pathologizes people, AKA says, oh, that's really abnormal and like something's wrong with you. And we have to prove in our notes that something's wrong with them and that it's abnormal that they would respond this way. And it's just so hard to work in this field because I'm constantly working according to my understanding of people's psyche and what they need to get better, which is completely different and in many cases opposite of what I have to follow and write about in my notes and defend in my notes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I have to follow the rules. Like I have to go and be like, okay, well, I have to find a diagnosis that fits. And if they don't fit that diagnosis, then I can't do therapy with them.
Yeah.
And so that's why I really like life coaching, because it's like if you don't meet criteria for a diagnosis, then I can still help you. Whereas like a
Yeah.
therapist literally isn't allowed to do that if you don't meet criteria for a diagnosis, because the definition of therapy, you work with people who meet criteria for a diagnosis until they don't meet criteria anymore, and then you have to stop working with them.
Mm.
Anyway.
That's so that I see a lot of similarities in terms of fitness and physical therapy. So many of the clients that come through my books are people who have kind of flunked out of physical therapy that okay, they started as an athlete and then they got an injury and then they went to physical therapy, and physical therapy's only goal was to get them out of pain but not back to function. And
Yes,
so
exactly. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so as soon as they stopped having pain, because like the pain reduction treatments were working,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't learn how to fix their compensatory patterns
Yeah,
that caused them to become injured in the first place, which
exactly.
sounds
Exactly.
exactly like therapy.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it. And
Yeah.
that's why a lot of people benefit from therapy until they don't. They're like, this
Mhm.
person helped me at first because I was like really struggling so much, but now, there's a limit
Yeah.
on what a therapist can do and what they're trained to do. Part of meeting criteria for any diagnosis is that it impacts at least one area of functioning and or has clinically significant distress. And so you have to prove, okay, well, it's really hard for them to work because of these specific symptoms. The other thing that's really frustrating is that improvement in therapy and basically defending yourself in your notes, because insurance can literally pay you as a therapist and then later audit your notes years down the road and be like, oh, actually, we don't think that you justified that this person needed therapy. Or like, you even
Mm.
have to justify why it's 60 minutes instead of 45 minutes. You have to justify everything. So they can literally like unpay you for work you've already done. So, anyway, basically, if you are a high functioning person who's also really struggling, then you also might not meet criteria for a
Mm.
diagnosis because it doesn't impact an area of functioning. Ugh, anyway, so that was just literally a title in the book that as I'm looking through the chapter. So let me find them and then we'll get back to. Okay. Early childhood mechanisms of self suppression are reinforced by persistent gendered social conditioning. Many women end up self silencing, defined as the tendency to silence one's thoughts and feelings to maintain safe relationships, particularly intimate relationships. This chronic negation of one's authentic experience can be fatal. In a study that followed nearly 2,000 women over 10 years, those who reported that in conflict with their spouses, they usually or always kept their feelings to themselves had over 4 times the risk of dying during the follow up. So, the follow up appointment, compared with women who always showed their feelings. Another study showed that for women with non supportive bosses, the squashing of anger, a natural adaptation to an environment in which to self express would be to risk the loss of employment, increased the risk of heart disease.
Damn.
Yeah.
All of that to say it's so important for people to have the courage to express their feelings.
Yeah. So, you know how I've talked about signals and noise? Like sometimes your guilt is a signal and sometimes it's noise. This says one healthy response to assault for any sentient creature is anger, which is so the anger would be a signal. It's a function of the evolutionary rage system in the brain whose purpose is to defend our boundaries.
It's so funny when I go back and I think back to experiences that were unhealthy and
Mhm.
like specifically that statement, like a healthy response to assault is anger. And when I was assaulted, I didn't get angry until years later.
Yeah. Because you
Years
were literally
later.
in freeze response.
For years.
Yeah.
Like
And you could
that.
have been for the rest of your life if you didn't do any work to try to work through that.
Yeah. Yeah. And to think too that that also can correlate to what did it say? Heart disease.
Heart disease. Yeah.
So I've been seeing a lot of stories, and by stories, I mean people's personal reflections of people in their life who have been like the quote unquote epitome of health and
Mm.
like who were super active and, exercised and ate well and all the things. And they die from like a heart attack. And they're like, oh, I never saw it coming. We had no idea that that was going to happen. Right. And it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense because the person was so healthy. That conversation as well about, oh,
Yeah.
okay, well, I wonder what that person's emotional background, like maybe they
Yeah.
had childhood trauma or they had experiences that they just stuffed down
Mhm.
and they used health maybe to disassociate from it.
Mhm.
Health as in like exercise and dieting and that
Or
sort of
like
thing.
those are the things they had influence over. So they were like,
Yeah.
focusing on this is something I can control, whereas these other things I can't, but then it gets out of hand. Or maybe
Yeah.
even if it doesn't get out of hand, right? Like they're just
Yeah.
healthy, but it's like these emotional, is that what the point you're making? Sorry.
Yeah, that exactly. No, that's exactly what I'm thinking is it's like sure, maybe you controlled that thing, but also there's the uncontrollable of what you've said, the body keeps score
Mhm.
and it doesn't lie. And so if we're not addressing the deeper things, you
Mhm.
could still be at risk for something.
Yeah. Okay. So is there anything else? Is there anything unsaid that we need to tie up before we go to the next one?
um
Oh, wait, the
uh,
one we're talking about is I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings.
yeah.
Okay, you ready for the next one?
Yes.
Number four, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. Have you seen that it I don't know if it was a chart or what, but it showed over your lifetime how many hours you spend with different people. And when you're younger, you spend so much time with your friends. And then when you become an adult, it's so small.
Yes, I'm literally going to Google that now because
Yeah.
that was a fucking crazy chart. So basically, this diagram that we're looking at, it's a line graph of time spent with, and it puts the hours per day compared to your age, and it compares parents, siblings, family, friends, partner, children, coworkers, and alone. And the amount of time spent alone between the time that you're 15 versus the time that you're 85 more than doubles.
About 3 hours per day to
I would say that's 8.
8 hours per day. Yep.
And then the time spent with parents, siblings, and family goes from just over 4 down to 1, almost 0, very fast.
Time spent with parents, siblings, and family when you were 15 was about 5 hours a day, whereas when you're 27, it's below 2 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it levels out by the time you're about 30.
Time spent with friends starts at 15 with 2 hours a day, and very quickly, by the time you're 27, it's 1 hour a day.
And then the
And
same thing by the time you're 30 is damn near nothing.
the source for that is, well,
American Time Use Survey, Our World in Data.
yeah. All right. I wish I'd stay in touch with my friends. Oh, yeah. So I want to see my friends more. I want to beat the odds. I want to be the outlier on the graph when it comes to friends. When I was a kid, I think I've said this before on the podcast. It just encapsulates so much for me and how I feel about friends in general and my friends. When I was a kid, there was this St. Patrick's Day prompt in school. I think it was in first or second grade. And it was draw something at the end of your rainbow that is more important or more valuable than a pot of gold. And I said friends. And
Oh,
I still believe that. I have really good friends. Your friendship and my friendship is like, I don't know. I just feel bad for people who have more like surface level friendships only. But if any of you are listening and you feel like you have surface level friendships, the more yourself you are, the more self centered you are, the closer you're going to get to your people.
mm-hmm.
So if you're like, oh, I wish that I could have closer friends, that's how you do it. So keep listening. Um, yeah, friends are so important. I mean, and also, I might be biased toward that because I don't have the type of family that I want. I don't have a healthy, happy, close family. And so I think maybe people who do have that aren't biased as much toward valuing friends, maybe. But I think I would value friends regardless, honestly, because you can love your family and love being around them. And that is so amazing. But friends are amazing in a different way. I think partially because they're not from your family. They're literally strangers that you did not have to ever have an interaction with or continue having interactions with, who you are choosing to have in your life. You can build your life around your friends. friends, you know, you can think about how often do I want to see this person? We can go on vacations together, like whatever.
So much of that depends, of course, on the quality of your friendships, because I'm thinking about times in my life where I'm like, it doesn't really matter to me how much I stay in contact with my friends. And now that I'm reflecting on that, of like, oh yeah, I don't particularly care how much I stay in touch with friends. It's because those friendships that I had were draining to me.
Yeah.
And were friendships that took from me because my problem, I had a core belief that I had to continue pouring out and giving and giving and giving. And that friendships were not about me equally receiving. They were about me basically regulating other people because all these people would come into my life that needed things.
Mhm.
And I didn't feel comfortable with them being without, whatever that need was, without happiness, without joy, without peace, without, comfort, without stability, whatever. And so I felt the need to provide for that. Well, no fucking way. I was exhausted.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I
Yeah.
need to stay in touch with them. I need to stay away from them.
So it was like the only moments I felt, safe and like I could breathe were when I was alone and not with these people. And like there is like a desire for belongingness, sure, but I never found that in friendships.
Right.
So,
Right.
and I also, because I didn't give my true authentic self for so long until like the last 5 years or something, since I didn't do that, I didn't feel seen by those people. So that also didn't feel safe. And so the friendships that I had weren't consistent with me.
Yeah. Contrast that with how you feel now.
With you, it's easy. It's so great. I think back to this is story time. I think back to when we were living together. And I had another close friend at the time who kept asking for connection, asking for connection, asking for connection. And this friend, there were things that I appreciated about her. And I was also very drained around her as well because I felt like I had to always be on, like I had to, either be solving problems for her or she was going through some rough periods in her life. So also I felt like I had to always be providing support and comfort. And she had kept requesting, oh, well, we don't have to do anything. We can just veg out on the couch or, like it doesn't have to be a big thing when we hang out. But in my mind, I was like, well, it feels like a big thing. I'm physically and emotionally drained when I'm around you. And I remember that was that experience with a person I considered a very close friend. And then you and I became friends when we started living together. And it was just like so easy because it could be conversations that, oh yeah, I actually don't have to provide any energy here. Like the amount that it takes from me is nothing. One, because we can talk about something and then that be that. When we say stuff to each other, it's just like, oh yeah, this is true. And I can just accept it and I can move forward, not let's dwell on the thing for 40 million hours.
So can you give an example of, because I'm trying to imagine what you're talking about, of like talking about something and then dwelling on it instead of being able to be like, yep, that's true and move on.
That's so funny that you asked that because you were really good about accepting, oh yeah, that's true, and moving on. That's one of the things that I really admire about you.
I've never heard that before. And
oh no, I've even brought that up to my therapist. I aspire to be like you in that because it is really impressive that when you hear something and you can acknowledge that, oh yeah, that makes sense. You don't go back and forth and second guess and still dwell on the thing. Whereas the friendships that I've had previously, if there was something, going on or something that was like frustrating in their life, okay, we would talk about the thing. We would find the solution to the thing. We would validate the feeling to the thing. And then we would go back and do that over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it's like, okay, eventually, after months of going back and doing the same thing over and over, you got to just either make a change or I can't be around it anymore,
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a clue into the way that their mind functions. I mean, that's overthinking, except externalized in a friendship. And when you don't have the skills to intervene in that, then yeah.
Yeah, it's draining. I remember the example that you gave. Was this a few weeks ago, where you had a work friend that you both were in a toxic work environment and you were able to get yourself out of it. It was similar to that extent that, this friend and I had gone through a work experience that was really stressful and that put a lot of pressure on us. And that person had remained near that experience and I had left that experience. Yeah. And they were dwelling on it so much. And so it was like, okay, every time we got together, it was kind of like I'm dwelling on this experience. I'm dwelling on this experience. And I'm like, I want to be out of the experience. I left for a
What
reason.
happened
Like,
at work, friend. So I know what you're talking about because I started dreading hanging out with her because I knew it's literally going to be the same exact thing. And maybe they're different stories this time because it's what happened in the last 2 weeks, but
mhm.
it's same shit, different day.
Yeah,
Literally like, oh, well, did you know about this person who offended me or this person who did this thing that I'm not okay with? Or nah, 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 nah. And I'm just like, dude, you're so insecure. And again, I don't say you're so insecure in a judgmental way because I've been there and I've been that person. But I think it's important for us to work on that so we become secure, we become self-centered in, the healthy sense of the word. And then we find other people who are secure so they're not doing that over and over in their heads or in the friendship where it's like they literally can't let go of things because their ego is so attached to it that they're obsessed with it. You can't just hang out with someone like that. Also, someone who's more ego centered cannot be their authentic selves. So you're not even hanging out with someone who's their authentic self. So you're just two people performing and masking. And that person has a lower awareness of that, or maybe no awareness of that. Whereas you might recognize, whoa, this person has so many things to work on. They're not even aware of what I'm seeing. And it's like when you're a higher level of consciousness, again, not saying that in a judgmental way or a cocky way, but like when you're a higher level of consciousness and you're further along in your personal evolution and being more secure and self centered, you see that. And it's just like, this is so draining because you're more functional. So
yeah.
hanging out with people who are less functional is more draining.
And I feel like at that point, too, you've decided that you're not going to be the crutch for the person. So
Right.
it's like you can't even bring them to you because one, they're not at the capacity that they can go up the ladder to get to you.
Yeah.
So they can't like, or they couldn't, climb the rope or the ladder that you throw to them. They can't do that themselves.
Yeah.
And so you either have to backtrack to
Yeah.
go hang out with them or you're just not around them anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, you have to backtrack to hang out with them. And that is, yeah, why would you do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can't be your authentic self. So that's so much work because you have to perform to backtrack. And at the time that maybe you first started connecting with them, you might have been the same, you probably were the same level of consciousness and the same level of maturity. And I mean that in terms of like a developmental growth perspective, right?
Yeah.
So you connected and it wasn't draining because you're at the same level of functioning. And so there wasn't any of you seeing these things that then you're choosing not to respond to or in your head deciding, right? You're just reacting in the moment and it's fine. But then when you grow, this is how people grow past other people is that if you grow past them and they don't want to come with you, right? Or they can't, or your relationship wasn't one where you could bring them or whatever, it's like, yeah, those are the people who are hardest to leave and to set boundaries with because they just don't get it too. Because they have a lower level of awareness. They
Yeah.
just don't understand. And those are the people who are more likely to make you feel like you're a bad person because they're so insecure. It triggers their insecurities for you to have boundaries or to end a friendship or to not hang out as often. And their insecurities of, oh, is something wrong with me? Am I not likable? Come out. I mean, they might come out like that. They might come out like, oh my God, give me so much reassurance. Oh my gosh, do you not like being around me because I'm like this? And in your head, you're like, oh yeah. And so you need to improve that. This relationship doesn't get better by me just pretending that's okay. You need to work on that. So it's either this, I need reassurance, I'm so insecure, or it's the more I'm going to criticize you so that I can feel okay about myself. And what's really motivating me criticizing you is that I feel bad about myself, right? I'm criticizing myself, but you're the problem. So, oh, you don't want to spend time with me, Katie? We're just hanging out on the couch and talking. What's wrong with you that you're so sensitive that you can't literally just hang out on the couch? That's weird. You know what I mean? So it becomes
Yeah.
like nasty, and that's a protection, that's a defense mechanism for protecting their insecurity and their ego. That's what ego is. They're like, we're protecting this conditioned self because we're not okay being our authentic selves. And your authentic self is what happens when you're like, fuck conditions of worth, I'm unconditionally worthy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
So thinking back to that time, she was nasty to you, wasn't she? Sorry.
The way that, so yes.
I'm like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
The person that I had this interaction with, I will give them credit to the sense that I don't think they're consciously aware that they came off the way that they did.
Yeah.
And it's just sad. Like, I have empathy for the
Hmm.
person. That's where that ends.
Yeah.
However, the interactions that we had leading up to kind of the fallout of our friendship, there were some hurtful experiences that we had gone through independently. And I remember I would take a break from that friend for a while because they couldn't see and understand the experience that I was requesting to be heard on. So there was a situation that happened that caused a lot of stress. It happened around Luna. There was an event that we went to, and my dog, it got attacked at this event. And I said, you know what? I'm going to leave this event. This is just really stressful for me. And then the person had said, well, you didn't need to leave. And
I remember that.
you remember that now, yeah. And
Yeah.
for context, the event was something that this person invited me to that was not their event. It was their friend's event. So like, I already felt really out of place with the event. But so I left because I was like, okay, I don't know these people. Like, this caused a scene by itself. This is better for me to just excuse myself because I don't feel comfortable here anyways. Yeah. And Luna, yeah, I know Luna got, it was just a whole thing. So I excused myself, and we didn't talk much for a few weeks. And the next time that they saw me, they were like, oh, are you better now? And I'm like, am I better now? Wow. Okay. Yeah, sure. I'm better now. So like, that was one of the things. But so then we went on this like kind of on again, off again sort of thing in terms of our friendship, where, they were asking for my time in terms of like, oh, okay, well, it doesn't have to be a big thing. We could just hang out on the couch, yada, yada. And I was like, I wish I could commit to that. But like, my life is right now, because I was in survival mode at that point, I was like, my life is literally like work and sleep. And the times that I have that are like friend times, it's you and me, Allie, you and me just like literally hanging out on the couch as we're about to go to sleep. Yeah, in our PJs watching Lucifer. And then
phone in your hand turned on mid scroll.
Yes. But yeah, so like, they didn't understand that I really don't have capacity for that. And like, there are moments that I would have capacity and I would try to be there to support them because they were going through their things, but I couldn't do that all the time. And I, had expressed that. So anywho, so it got to the point where I had to like explain myself every single time that I couldn't be there to validate and, support them. Like, if I was working and they messaged me and I didn't respond within a couple hours, I would have to let them know what it was that, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm working right now. Like, I can't respond. I'll try to come back to this in a couple hours. But a couple hours later, it's like 9 o'clock and I've been working until 9 and I don't have capacity anymore. So I'm like, yeah, it was just like this expectation always to be, justifying everything that I was doing. And so we hadn't talked in like maybe 2 weeks at that point. And for me, for most of my friendships that have remained, that is normal in the sense that like, we understand that life happens.
Oh, yeah.
And that we're both
Every
like
single
super
one of
busy.
my friends now.
Yeah.
Once I did the mass cut.
Yeah. It's like the people that know that you're good intentioned also know that you've got a whole bunch of shit going on, and that silence for a little bit doesn't mean that you have anything negative against them. It just means that you're busy and you're trying your damnedest to get through life as it is, which is hard. So anywho, so I had reached back out to that friend like casually with something that was like a mutual interest of ours. And I just like was just checking in to see like, hey, do you need this thing? I'm going to go to this place that we mutually would go to, yada, yada. And I didn't respond. I was like, okay, whatever. And then the next day they were like, I don't even know what to do with this friendship anymore. So until you figure yourself out, I'm just going to leave this as is. And I'm like, got it. And so I didn't even respond at that point. I was like, all right, this person is committed to misunderstanding me. Yeah. Like, there's no way that this relationship is going to go, that we're going to be growing together. And I don't have room to try to bring you with me now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
you probably didn't have the capacity to come with you. So
possible. Yeah. I feel bad about it in the sense that like, there were things that we connected on that could have been good. And I saw a lot of potential as a friend in that person, but Yeah, it just
I get
sucks.
that. There are friendships. I mean, one of my exes, I just miss so much as a friend, but we can't be friends. And I have
Yeah.
another ex who is a friend, and we're super good friends, and we can be friends, but some people just can't come with you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Yeah. So I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. If your relationships are more draining, you might not relate to that one or see how you could relate to that one in the future. And so if what we just talked about, those types of friendships resonate with you, then I mean, it really depends on the situation. So I don't really want to give blanket advice, but you just want to, see if you could figure out if this person is going to be able to grow with you or not. But you need to only have friends who give to you.
Yeah, it could essentially be a signal that, hey, maybe consider assessing your relationships and seeing if they're mutually beneficial relationships. And if they're not, maybe that's why you don't want to stay in touch with them. And if they are you giving those relationships the priority that you want to give them?
So staying in touch with friends. Yeah, I'm gonna do that forever. And I'm not gonna regret it. And I do not spend as much time as I want to with friends. And it's because I haven't been able to. Like I haven't I've been very much in survival mode. But one of my goals in life is to be able to spend more time with my friends, and that's going to happen soon. Okay. Last one. I wish that I had let myself be happier. So this says, many did not realize until the end of their life that happiness is a choice. They had stayed stuck in old patterns and habits. The so called comfort and familiarity overflowed into their emotions as well as their physical lives. Fear of change had them pretending to others and to themselves that they were content, when deep within they longed to laugh properly and have silliness in their life again. Life is a choice, it is your life. And this is all from this Bronnie Ware's website you can go to. This is literally why I do my job.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you stay stuck in old patterns and habits, nothing changes if nothing changes. Our patterns and habits are under our control, or at least we can influence them, and we can influence them for the better. If I was still in my old patterns and habits that I was in high school, in my 20s, you and I would not be friends.
Yeah.
If I was in my old patterns and habits, I would be in a relationship with someone who is avoidant of their emotions. And I would be continually trying to get them to connect with me by pleading, by crying, by being exactly what they want me to be. I would have had kids with that person because I would have been like, well, I want to have kids by a certain time and I'm getting older or like whatever. I would prioritize my appearance over financial security and saving, which, just so everyone knows, I am not against aesthetics. When I have financial security and savings, I am getting Botox and I'm saving up for a facelift in like 2. I just want to be very clear that that's something that's important to me. It's important to me because it's fun, not because it's necessary. And if I was in my old patterns and habits, it would be like, oh yeah, what I look like matters. Being the cool, chill girl, I would not be happy with that because my
Yeah.
relationships would be with other people who are focused on all of those things that don't really matter for our happiness. What matters is the quality of our relationships, how ourselves we can be. Am I doing the things that I want to be doing that fill me up, that feel really good? Am I aligned with my values? Am I working toward my mission? Am I creating a change? It's, yeah, the things that I love. Do I have my own house that no landlord can increase the rent or say we don't allow pets anymore? I want to own a house. I want to have people over for dinner parties. I want to set up the living room in a comfy way so we can just hang out. Then I can see my friends more. I want to be exercising and eating well, prepping meals for myself that I freeze so that past me took care of current me.
Yeah.
I get to travel. I love my dog. That's what matters. And then
Yeah.
the cherry on top, is, you know, my Botox and like I get to wear cute clothes and like I love that shit, you know, and that feels so good. That's like glitter on top of everything else. But these other things matter more. You need to eat the protein before you have dessert.
The thing that I really like about how that's written, I wish I had let myself be happier. It implies personal responsibility. When I read that, it reminds me that you actually can't stay still. And what I mean by that is you're typically either going forward or going backward. You're either progressing yourself towards something or you're taking yourself away from something and getting farther away from the thing that you want because time doesn't stand still, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every choice that you make, whether that's taking you away from your seat or it's, you know, keeping you from your authentic self, every choice that you're making that does that keeps you from getting happier in life. That's on us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And while we're not to blame for everything that happens to us, we are responsible for how we respond and what we do next. And when we have experiences in life that keep us from being happy, we have to choose the next step. Are we going to choose our happiness? Are we going to choose our authentic self? Are we going to choose to stay in our chair for the next step forward? And if we're not happy, and if we're not happy with the trajectory of where we're going, it comes back to us. We
Mm-hmm.
can blame the deck of cards that we've been dealt all we want. Ultimately, you're the one playing it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to see a different deck, you have to start putting cards down and picking new ones up.
Yes. I love that. I love that. That's so good. And it's okay to acknowledge and validate what a shitty hand of cards. Wow, this season of my life, I am damn. It is not fun to be playing this game with these fucking cards, you know?
Yeah.
It is totally okay and I encourage you to validate and recognize that and keep playing,
Yeah.
put some of those cards down, get some strategy. Again, that's why we keep coming back to the long game. What does your long game look like? Because the hand of cards that you have, you can change.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there might be certain things that you can't change, but there's things you have influence over, and that's what you have to focus on.
Yeah.
Going back to when people can't let go of things or accept truths how they are, if you just keep focusing over and over again on what you don't like and this hand of cards, this hand of cards is so bad. Wow. You know, a month ago I was complaining about this card, but now I'm complaining about this card, except it's in the color purple instead of the color red,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but it's
Yeah.
still a five of spades.
Yeah.
You know, so like I just keep complaining and keep trying to yell at that card and be like, no, you need to be different. And so now this card has rainbows on it, but it's still a five of spades. And it's
Yeah.
okay, you're trying to change things that you cannot change. You need to accept what you cannot control because that then allows you to let go of what you can't control and stop complaining and being miserable about the cycle that you're in, the repetition of the same thing over and over again. You need to acknowledge, yeah, well, I can't change this moment and this situation that I'm in, but I can make choices so that 6 months from now, a year from now, maybe even 5, 10 years from now, I do have a different hand of cards. And in
Mm-hmm.
order to get to 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years from now with a different hand of cards, I have to keep playing with the hand of cards that's in my hand. Complaining about the cards that I have, I need to be like, what is my strategy for how I'm going to play this? So then eventually I'm not holding these cards anymore. But you have
Yeah.
to hold the cards. You have to embrace the reality and these hard truths that don't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's embracing that shit is what lets you be happy.
So true.
And that's on stoicism, honestly.
Yeah.
You know how I said if I stayed stuck in my old patterns and habits, this is what my life would look like now? So if you were still stuck in your old patterns and habits and just stayed with, you know, the easiest choice, which is just the same and not made any changes to those patterns and habits, what would your life look like right now? Or
So
probably look like?
as soon as you say that, it feels icky in my
Oh,
body.
wow.
Yeah. Like I tense up and I tense up in my hands and I get like sad and sullen because I'm like, damn, like that's not me, right?
So before you continue, because right now this is like a therapeutic moment, I can just tell, or it could be. So what I want to say is that you're not there anymore,
Right.
and I'm
Yeah.
here with you, and I love you so much, and you never have to go back again. That doesn't exist and it will never exist again.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. It's such like I reference my divorce so much because that really was such a big turning point for me. That was the pivotal moment from where it went from my life is for someone else's needs and comfort versus my life is for me and what brings me joy and what feels good and feels right to me. That moment happened through my marriage and when I got divorced. And so, like, the biggest things that would be different one, I would still be married and I would still be married to someone that I didn't exist as me. I existed performatively.
Rectified. You met a
Yeah.
need. You weren't seen as subjectively as who you are.
Yeah, I would be walking on eggshells in like everything, which even if my other relationships in my life didn't expect me to walk on eggshells, which many of them don't necessarily, because it occurred in the most important relationship in my life that I projected out to every relationship. So I would continue to feel like I couldn't live for myself. I had to live based off of other people's expectations and based off of what other people wanted for me. And I had to, be the martyr and, solve everything for everybody else. And oh my God, I would be so exhausted. The other thing that came to my mind when you asked that question, this phrasing is awful. I don't like it. And I think it's a bit of an exaggeration, but it's true with the beliefs that I held for the sake of belonging, is I would kind of be a bigot.
Wow.
Yeah. And
That is so not you.
it's not. And I can juxtapose those two things, the feelings that I had versus the beliefs that I spoke. They are very different, but I subscribed to a belief system for a long time because it brought me belonging. And I felt like I had to stay in line with those things while also in my heart holding space and empathy for what I feel like I actually believed, which wasn't what I said that I believed. And
It's so hard to live
it
that.
is hard. Yeah. And I remember like I put
So
myself in,
lonely.
it is lonely. Yeah. I like put myself in the shoes of me from, 5 to 8 years ago. And I can feel that kind of dissonance that was occurring in myself of like, yeah, this is the thing that I should say. And everyone wants me to say and what is accepted and appropriate. And then this is the thing that I'm like, oh, but that thing feels icky. That actually doesn't feel good to me. And I actually don't want that. And what I think that would have led to is a very mediocre but typical life.
Yeah. Unfulfilled and just bored, I'm sure. Just gray, right?
Yeah. And it would have been a life of overperforming and constantly overextending myself. And I probably would have died an early death, whether by myself, like me doing that to myself because I hated my life, or because of something like, these autoimmune situations or, cardiac arrest, or like, oh, yeah, she's the epitome of health. But look at that. She dies of an early death because she had a heart attack.
Mhm.
Because, yeah, it was emotional suppression and just like so disconnected. And I don't ever really, I don't want to be that way. I don't want to be so disconnected from my body and my experience that I deny what is true in me.
Yeah. Wow. I'm just thinking about past you and what is it like for her to hear you talking right now and to know where you are now?
She would be so confused, honestly.
Yeah.
Because, like,
Because you've evolved so much. It's kind of
yeah,
like with those friends who you grow past, like it's literally you're speaking a different language. They don't know what you're talking about.
it reminds me of, I, I'll say this just as a general. It reminds me of when people say that things are so woke.
Mm.
Um, and it's not that things are so woke, it's that we're just talking into very different stages of life and experiences and priorities. I just, that's what I think old me from that old stage of life would be like, I don't understand that. Therefore, that has to be bad.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also there talk about conditions of worth and, beliefs about the self. Part of being lovable and being seen as capable is being rational. And it sounds like the culture that you came from, being aware of your feelings, and your feelings contribute to your intuition and they give you signals about what you want and need and who you are, that makes you, being an emotional person or being connected to your feelings or setting boundaries, you must be sensitive or you must be weak.
Yeah.
As you were talking, I was like, being self-centered means being free, because those old patterns and habits, that's a prison, that's a trap. And get help for this. I think really life coaches are better for this than therapists, but I think it depends on where you are, really. Like, I guess it depends on whether or not you meet diagnostic criteria.
Right. Yeah.
um, Going to therapy, going to a life coach, depending on your situation and what you need, you can get that help to identify the trap. What does your trap look like? Where did your trap come from? How do you get out of this trap and then live outside of the trap? I wouldn't say that we're woke. I mean, I guess it depends on your definition of woke, because I definitely think there's your brain fell out woke. But I think
Yeah.
that what you and I are talking about, like healthy boundaries and acknowledging what's going on internally and expressing that and having relationships where you can be yourself, I think that's just living outside of the trap and living in reality instead of living in cultural brainwashing.
Mm-hmm. What's crazy though is like when you're brainwashed,
Yeah,
you think that living in reality is not reality, that it's a false
exactly.
reality.
Yeah.
Like that's what's crazy is both people are living in reality. Because did I say that earlier? That reality is between your ears?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
statement, yeah, that my professor would always say, reality is between your ears.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because your truth is your truth. And it's like, okay, well, how deep did your truth go?
Well,
I don't
I
know.
have a lot of clients, and I myself have dealt with this, where usually it's clients who have dysfunctional parents who are delusional, their personality disordered, and the level of invalidation and gaslighting and normalization of things that are not normal is so extreme that then you go to therapy and you get help and you pull yourself out of those habits and patterns that you got from them, so you're outside that trap. But then you lose trust for yourself, because you're like, what can I trust if anyone can be delusional?
Yeah.
I think that's where it comes back to, again, red light, green light. I
Yeah.
talked about what in episode 2.
I think
Yeah,
episode two.
because your body does not lie, and that will tell you what you need. And that's why it's, for me, it's like other boundaries, boundaries that I don't agree with. I actually just had a client right before coming on to record this with you. We were talking about, I've worked with her for 3 years, and she's in this place where she just set a boundary and let go of a few friends, and it's really healthy and good for her. And one of her friends set a boundary with her that it seems like it's one of those things where it's like, oh, that's not a boundary I would set. Like, that's kind of dumb. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, but it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what that person, whether or not you agree with it or whether or not you understand it. Like, that is their boundary based on their needs. And if they're delusional, whatever. But what you can trust and what you can come back to is, what do I need?
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So we don't have to know, like, there is no objective truth of like, is this thing that I need reasonable? Is this okay? Right? So like, you don't have to doubt yourself, or you don't have to try to look for certainty for this objective truth, because there is none. It's literally just, what do you need, and then take care of yourself based on,
Yeah.
anyway. I'm going somewhere else. All right. So we're glad that you're here with us today and that I'm here with us today outside of the trap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Freedom. I don't think we have anything else other than the selfies thing.
Oh, right. I'm so glad you remembered that because I did not.
So, okay, listeners, we want to call you something other than listeners. And I want to call you the selfies. And at first, so Katie and I were talking about it. Like, what could we call you guys? It's like, oh, we could call you the centered selves. And it's like, yeah, yeah, Katie. Like, we just need something short and cute and quick. So Katie was like, what about selfies? And I was like, well, I actually was thinking about selfies, but I feel like there's already the meaning of that word, which is taking a picture of yourself. And if you're taking a selfie that's seen as vain, and Katie was like, well, then maybe that's actually perfect because it's not vain, right? Like you can
Mhm.
be taking selfies and just be like, I'm fucking feeling myself and I love this, you know? Like I actually have a client who was like, I love taking selfies, but I stopped taking selfies because my husband judges me for it.
Aw.
And she's like, but really I love it because I love getting, dolled up or and taking a picture of me or certain angles and then looking at them and it just feels so good and I love it. And I'm like, then do it. And selfies is like you're self-centered. You're a self.
Yeah.
I'm for my selfie, you
Mhm.
know?
And it's also when I think of selfies, okay, so envision yourself holding a phone. The selfie is always the forward facing camera, right? One that you can
Like the
see
clear mirror.
yourself. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so are we selling it to you guys? Are we selling it to you selfies?
We seem to be selling it to ourselves. So,
I know. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter what you want. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We do want to know what you think, though. So tell us on Instagram or you can email us too, but probably just go to Insta, send us a message. What is it? Self-centered.pod on Instagram.
yes,
Our email is self-centeredthepod at
at Gmail.
gmail.com.
Yep.
So, yeah, tell us what you think.
And to that end,
Think
because I'll forget to tell all these people that talk to me in person, please send it in writing. I
okay.
forget.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know what you're doing, but whatever you're doing after this, just open up your Insta app or do it as I'm talking right now. Go to your app right now, girl. People listening to Katie, people listening to me, people who we don't know yet. Go to Instagram right now, self-centered.pod. Send us a message. I like selfie, or
Yeah.
I don't like selfie. Or you can use a prompt of your own, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But it can
Yeah. If
literally be,
there's,
I like selfie. Like, don't feel like you need to do emojis or figure out how to say it. Let it be boring, but just tell her.
yeah. And that also goes for anything that you guys have questions about or have pondered about more or want to talk more about. And if you would prefer anonymity, that is totally fine. Did
Anonymity.
I say that wrong? And
Anonymity. It's
anonymity.
anonymity.
Anonymity. Anywho, that is also totally fine. I've had a few clients bring up some of the topics from the podcast in person and we expand on them in person. I know. And I'm sad that you can't be a part of the conversations because you're on the other side of the country. And I also don't know what of those things I can share. And I'm not going to share them until you bring it to both of us
Yeah.
because I don't want to violate privacy on many of those things. So please send it to us in writing via official channels if you are comfortable with us talking about those topics on the podcast.
Yeah. And if
Because
you want anonymity, tell us, and we just won't share your name or any identifying information.
yeah, and as you can see, the vast majority of the things that we talk about, we do maintain anonymity.
All right. Well, this was great.
Loved it.
Yeah. Love y'all. Stay self-centered selfies. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Follow us on Instagram at selfcentered.pod or connect with us at selfcenteredthepod at gmail.com.
Stay self-centered, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Peace.